Hey guys, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
having us.
Excellent. So, Michael, Pablo, how did you guys end up getting into barbecuing?
Growing up in Florida, there was a lot of kind of like barbecue, pork centric barbecue that I liked. Pork ribs and pulled pork. Brisket for me was in Florida, especially, was not very good. You'd always get it like over sauce in a sandwich. So I remember the first time coming to Denver and eating at Owlbear Barbecue. That was
Hmm.
started by Carl Felanius, who had worked in Texas at Franklin Barbecue, so he knew the techniques. I tried brisket there for the first time and it blew me away. It was something very different from what I tried up to that point. It really sparked an interest in me to learn how to do this. And so when he opened a brick and mortar, Owlbear Barbecue, where Pit Fiend is located today on
Oh.
Larimer Street, when he opened there, I just went and got a job. I wanted to get in there any way I could. My first few shifts were as dishwasher. I didn't care, but pretty
Wow.
soon I started cooking and learning what would become my passion.
And I started learning barbecue at Owlbear as well. I had never cooked barbecue prior to that. I grew up in Wisconsin where there isn't much of a barbecue scene. You know, just was fortunate to occasionally try some good barbecue when I was
Mm,
traveling, and so I had an idea that there was something better out there, but didn't really have a good basis for what that looked like. And even though I'd been cooking in a few different kitchens over the years, trying out some different cuisines. Hadn't really found my niche, and so when I met Carl at Owlbear and saw what he was doing, I realized this is what I want to learn. This is exciting. This is different. This is a step above what I'm used to. And so I was one of the cooks that helped him open the restaurant. And Paul started there a few weeks after I did, and the two of us pretty much cooked at Owlbear and learned at Owlbear for the entire time that it was open. And
Mhm.
by the time that by the time that Owlbear closed, we felt that we had learned everything we needed to know to do it on our own. And kind of felt the need to keep going because we realized when that restaurant closed, and we both found ourselves looking at having to find a new job. We realized that Denver was losing something. We
mm,
weren't just losing a job. Denver was losing a quality of barbecue
mm,
that no one else was really providing. What
Mhm.
Carl had been doing, what he had taught us to do,
Mhm.
was very different from what existed in Denver previously.
Mhm.
And
sure.
we
Yeah.
wanted to continue elevating that level of barbecue and creating this product for all of the people who are hungry for it.
Your tagline is "Eat good, fight evil." If you guys had barbecue superpowers, what would they be?
For me, it would be having six arms. I'm uh, always trying to do more than I have the arms for. I think it's a rare occasion that two arms is enough. So I would love to have a couple extra retractable arms, four minimum, that I can just take out at a moment's notice. So I can be, tending fires, trimming brisket, rubbing meats all at the same time.
Yeah.
Just everywhere all at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it would be teleportation.
Okay.
Uh, I'd be able to move around the different spaces like much faster, and also because our prep kitchen is divided from our smokers, where we're doing the smoking and the prep, so we have to walk through the dining room to from our smokers to the prep kitchen, like just
Oh wow.
it's a bit of a walk. So like that would be, I mean, that would just be great to be able to teleport back and forth really quickly.
Is there any flavor combo that you guys like really love that other barbecue people are like, huh?
I would say a couple off the top of my head that I think about is using coffee in the rub
Oh.
for our meats. I think that like that gives it a really nice flavor, especially because when it's applied to smoke and it mixes with the meat.
Hmm.
I have a very distinct memory of like pulling brisket for the first time and letting it rest. And as it rested, the aroma was very. It was like a very chocolatey, like sweet um, aroma. And I was like, man, this is really really interesting. I like that. Yeah, that's the one that comes off the top of my head.
Yeah, coffee. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely my first thought as well. It's definitely
Okay.
something that sometimes people will ask about it, or they'll their palate will pick it up, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a pleasant surprise. But the other one that I'm really fond of, so for our ribs,
Mm-hmm.
when we were cooking for Owlbear, we did a rib rub that used Chinese five spice, which is a
Oh,
blend of warming spices, clove and things like that that are going to have a lot of depth of flavor. And
okay.
as they smoke, they develop even more depth of flavor. And it can be a little divisive. I mean, it's a very pungent. The trick is balancing it and getting just the right amount so that you can taste all of that complexity without it overwhelming the meat, overwhelming the dish. And what we do a little differently at Pit Fiend is we do a very intense dry rub on our ribs. Some places will just do their ribs with salt and pepper. That's
Right.
great too. I feel that those ribs need sauce. The way that we do our dry rub on our ribs, we recommend it with sauce. It's
Mm-hmm.
great with sauce, but it doesn't
Right.
need sauce. You can cook it with just that dry rub. It'll still be juicy because of all the fat in the ribs that renders down during the cooking process.
Mm.
But at the same time, you're getting all of that additional flavor from the five spice and whatever other spices you throw in there. We like to do the same base rub that we use for our brisket and many of our other meats, which is the salt, brown sugar, and coffee. And then we add a few other components to that. The five spice being the main one,
Mm.
garlic, onion, some chilies.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a fairly simple mix of ingredients, but just the depth that you get from kind of going outside of the bounds of traditional American Kansas City style ribs,
Sure.
and bringing in something from a different culture. I mean, that's really what
Yeah.
what we try to do
Mhm.
with everything on our menu.
For beginners, is there a single best kind of basic tip that you might give to people starting out grilling?
The more that we learn about barbecue, the more that we realize how many different right answers there are. And so
Mhm.
I would caution anyone against thinking that there is a trick or a secret or a single thing.
Yeah.
My one piece of advice would be to just keep an open mind, even if you've
Okay.
been cooking barbecue for decades, which I haven't been.
Right.
Less than 10 years for each of us individually. And I would still say, to somebody who's been cooking 3 times as long as I have, I'm sure there's something out there they don't know. I'm sure there's something
Absolutely.
out there that they do know that they could learn a different approach. They could learn a new tidbit or tip or trick. And that's what we have kind of done. That's what I know has made me a great barbecue cook. Has
Mhm.
just
Keeping an
been
open mind. Yeah.
listening to everybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to everybody, and to add to that, to kind of like put this in a frame that makes it, I feel like a little bit easier to understand is barbecue is really like an amalgamation of so many details coming together for the final, product. So I remember early on it was described to me when you're cooking barbecue because of the long cook time, it's like steering a big ship where you make a very slight turn this way, but like,
Mm-hmm.
4 hours down the line, you're going to end up in a very different place
Right.
than you would have if you would have stayed on this course. So, like, just thinking about how little things can be magnified over time to add flavor, to add complexity, to add like bark, to all these things that like. So if you think about it in those terms of like learning how to pay attention to those small details along the way, so that you could steer the ship correctly, will
Yeah.
help you think about. And it'll also like help you just to like make decisions based on what you're noticing. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Because that's really what we kind of do is it's like there's no recipe, there's some guidelines that you want to follow, but every cook takes on its own personality sometimes because like weather's involved as well,
Right.
like
Yeah.
the
Temperature,
meat.
outsideness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so like there's a lot of different variables that go into this. So it's just kind of like trust your instincts, like
Mm-hmm.
observe and try to make decisions based on what you're seeing. And
Yeah.
then, and just think about it as like, yeah, this might be a small change now, but it's gonna put me in a very different place, down the line. So
Down the line. Right.
yeah, exactly. So, towards the end of the cook, so we,
Cool.
thinking about it in those terms, I think helps put you in the frame of mind for cooking barbecue.
I feel a lot of pitmasters, when I'm talking to them, they'd really like for people to know how much time and effort goes into these meats. Like it's not like a regular restaurant where if something's wrong, you can send it back and they can remake it. I
Right.
mean, each piece of meat is taking up to 24 hours for you guys to
Hmm.
make, and you go through some intense journeys on while making those long
Yeah.
long cooks.
One of the things that happens to us a lot in the neighborhood, for example, is, we'll be cooking, let's say 10, 11 o'clock at night, for the next day. And
Yeah.
and the smell just permeates. I mean, you can smell our barbecue from 2 blocks away.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll just have like, people just kind of wandering over at 11. You guys are closed. It smells so good. And it's like, yeah, but we're cooking for tomorrow. And they're like, cooking
Right.
for tomorrow. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we have to start. I mean, we start the process 2 days beforehand. You know what I mean? You got the trimming, you got to,
Yeah.
all that stuff, and then put it on the smoker, then smoke it for 12 hours. So it is really a long process. And I would say also that like our particular system, because it's all live fire,
Right.
and there are no knobs, there are no dials, like really the
Yeah.
the end result is mostly the product of a person who knows what they're doing cooking the meat.
Was there like a barbecue tradition or rule that you guys played with that now you've just thrown out the window because it just wasn't part of your game?
The first one that comes to mind is like if you're looking, you ain't cooking. You know what I'm
Oh.
saying? That was one of the first things that I learned, especially like reviewing the Meathead Goldwyn book. It's
Hmm.
like, listen, you gotta look and observe and see what's going on. Now, does
Mhm.
that mean you want to open the door every 5 minutes? No. With experience, you're able to kind of understand and know what's happening in there, and then but you do have to check at least every half hour.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know what I'm saying? To like
When you're
spray.
yeah, when you're cooking with truly live fire, I mean, when you have a gas assist and you've got a thermometer that's electronically set and it's just going to
Right.
hold, I mean, that's a different story, and you
Mhm.
really don't want to mess with it too much. But the way that we cook is definitely different from what a lot of people are doing at home, because we can't rely on any kind of temperature controls other than what we are doing with the wood in the firebox. So
Exactly.
you definitely have
Right.
to look a lot more often with that.
Hmm.
You guys create your own sausages, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So, what are some of the favorite flavor sausages that you guys have created?
Favorites? I think the first one that I think of is the Colombian chorizo.
Yeah. That was
Ooh.
Yeah.
great because it's kind of offbeat. It's not something that a lot of people, especially like looking for barbecue, come across. It's a recipe from my family, or like that I got from my travels to Colombia.
Cool.
We do it slightly differently than they do because they just hand chop it, and we do a nice grind on it so the fat is rendered
And
and
emulsified.
emulsified.
Mhm.
So that's something that people are surprised by when they come into our restaurant. They're like, "Wow, Colombian chorizo, what's that like?" Because they're used to
Mm,
maybe Spanish chorizo or
sure.
Mexican chorizo, and chorizo is just really the word for sausage in Spanish. So Colombian chorizo is gonna have a completely different flavor, and it's not spicy, but it's got cumin. It's really really
Mm,
delicious. Um, I think the jalapeno cheddar that Michael created
that
is
sounds
really
awesome.
another one of our favorites.
I
Uh,
mean, everybody does a jalapeno cheddar. We
Right.
just we really wanted to focus on again making sure we had the best quality ingredients.
Hmm.
So the only thing I think that we really did differently with this is to use a an imported English cheddar that's
Oh,
very sharp, very funky.
Mhm.
It adds a different character to the sausage as opposed to the sort of yellow mild yellow cheddar that a lot of people are used to using.
yeah.
Often people will put what's called a high temp cheese in their sausage when they make it at
Okay.
home.
Have there been any sausages combos that you tried and they just did not work out?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. We one time attempted a cheeseburger sausage. The biggest failure there is that when you put hamburger buns and American cheese into an emulsifying process, you get the most inedible, sticky, kind of semi-sweet, wet goo. It was
Oh.
horrible. It made the entire sausage into like a weird adhesive Play-Doh. It
Wow.
was, the texture was wrong, the flavor was not wrong, which made it worse somehow.
Yeah, right. I can
Yeah,
imagine.
it was not good. We tried it once, we decided never again.
What's the most overrated ingredient in barbecue?
The sauce.
The
Yeah.
sauce.
Yeah. I mean, we make
Yeah.
good sauces. Like, you know, I recommend certain sauces with certain meats, but it's overrated. If you have good barbecue, you don't need it. All it's going to do is take a mediocre piece of meat and make it an excellent piece of meat. If you already have an excellent piece of meat, it's not adding anything.
Right.
Pork or beef ribs?
Bison.
Oh, we
We
throwing
do
in
some bison ribs
category
once in a
C.
while. I would
Bison
say,
rib.
I mean, beef ribs are great, and everybody loves beef ribs, and people are constantly asking us about them.
Hmm.
Um, we enjoy cooking them. They're a bit of a fad kind of thing, and the biggest issue with that is that, something can be trendy and popular. It doesn't make it any less delicious. It does make it a heck of a lot more expensive.
Right.
Mm.
We're fortunate that we can get some good bison, like I said, that's raised right here in Colorado, and
Hmm.
I would take Colorado raised bison ribs over Texas or Iowa or Nebraska raised beef ribs any day. I mean, they're just
Mm-hmm.
so well marbled. They're
Oh
not
yeah.
gamey at all. I mean, they're
Wow.
just so delicious.
Okay. Yeah, love that. Okay, you.
A nice surprise for me as far as ribs go, since we're gonna go a little bit off the beaten track here and like
Sure.
kind of let your audience know about different stuff. Lamb ribs. We
Okay.
make we make some phenomenal lamb ribs. They stay juicy. They're small, so you want to. It's kind of like something you add to your meal, like a little icing on the cake, so to speak. But yeah, the lamb ribs that we make are phenomenal. They're a little gamey, super
Mm,
juicy,
yeah.
great.
And
That's like
and our secret for both the lamb ribs and the bison back ribs, when we cook them, we'll add a little bit of beef fat during the cooking process,
Oh.
rendered tallow, and just
Uh-huh.
mop some of that over the top with a little sauce, and that they'll absorb the beef fat during the cooking process. That makes it a
Mm.
lot juicier. It also helps cut the gaminess. That in particular, the lamb riblets will be a little more gamey in flavor.
Okay.
And when you add in that beef fat, it kind of mellows it out, makes it more of that sort of familiar barbecue flavor that people are expecting. But you still get to
Hmm.
taste that deliciousness from the lamb shining
mhm.
through.
Since you guys are in the arts district, is there any artist that you'd like to collaborate with to make one of your signature sausages?
There are some really excellent artists that we've collaborated with on art pieces.
Oh, cool.
I don't know, when it comes to a sausage, I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but
Uh-huh.
um, I you've got me thinking now. Should ask around
Why
and
not?
start getting some
Hey,
ideas.
okay,
I'd
right
love to
on. Yeah,
see.
it just
And
kind of
then
popped
make
in
like
my
a
head too.
graphic for it. Like if we make
Yeah.
like let's say like a blood sausage or something like
Ooh.
that, and then you just planted a seed there, bud.
We
Yeah.
got the wheels spinning right there. Okay,
Yeah, 'cause
right on. That's
we,
great.
a lot of our merch, like all of our merch, is really done by artists that we've gotten to know from the
Mhm.
neighborhood.
Sweet.
So we have distinct styles and like yeah, we really like if we have an idea, we try to find the artist who best like whose work best reflects what like what our idea is. You know what I mean, and have that
Yeah,
person kind of work on what our idea is. We just give them kind of like a basic outline or something like that, and they're like they
totally.
take it to that. They just flesh it out, and so
Yeah, so I mean, I think it would kind of depend on the type of sausage, right? But
yeah,
but where this has got me thinking is, maybe we just talk to some of these people about how do they envision the next Pit Fiend sausage special,
yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
and take their idea and see if we can make it work. I don't know.
yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Can you kind of tell our audience where we can find you, your online presence,
Yeah.
or if you're, doing anything special coming up?
Absolutely. So our website is pitfiendbbq.com. You can look us up for kind of information about the restaurant, the things we do. We do have some like articles there explaining kind of like what our approach is to barbecue.
You can
Huh?
find us there for catering as well if you need any events catered.
Right. And then
Awesome.
our Instagram is at pit_fiend_BBQ. That's where we do most of our announcements for specials and stuff coming up.
Or
Cool.
Facebook.
Right.
Yep.
Or
And then
Facebook.
also, every Sunday we have a different meat special that we offer. The first Sunday of every month is going to be pastrami.
Mm.
And then we switch it
Yeah,
up.
they rotate. We do pulled duck. We
Hmm.
do the bison ribs and lamb riblets that we talked about. We do turkey drums, which is coming up this Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, and then we also, if you follow us on Instagram, keep an eye out if you're in the Denver area because we're frequently doing pop-ups or events around town. The two of us will one or both of us will be there slinging some good barbecue, or we'll often do special menus with if you find us outside of the restaurant, we'll be serving something you can't get anywhere else.
Hmm.